Hi everybody, I'm David Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Lorcana, Not the Meta. And this episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm actually going to talk about a card mechanic that might actually help you out in your next Lorcana game. Now, you may already know about it and you may have all the options you need, but I'm going to go over it anyways because you never know, you might be somehow inspired for your next Lorcana deck. So what I'm going to go over with is not just a term you hear in other card games, but also it's a particular card called Bounce. It's 2 cost uninkable, it's an action card, and you return chosen character of yours to your hand in order to return another chosen character to their player's hand. Now that doesn't mean that when you return your character to your hand, that you only have the option to choose another player. No, this is to their player's hand. So if I had Snow White, I've got Timon, I've got Maximus, and let's say my opponent here has Mickey Mouse, Artful Rogue. Let's say Maximus has 2 damage on him already. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play, and my opponent just plays Mickey Mouse, Artful Rogue. I'm going to take Bounce. I'm going to choose a character of mine to return to my hand. I'm going to choose Snow White to return to my hand. And because I've done that, now I'm going to choose Mickey Mouse to go back to their hand. And then I'm going to play Snow White again in order to take that damage off of Maximus. But that doesn't mean that that's the only option. Again, to the player's hand. So I have an option. I can either return someone else's or one of my cards. So if I return Snow White to my hand, I could either return Mickey Mouse, Artful Rogue to my opponent's hand, or say return Maximus. So this time when I play Snow White, I can remove up to 2 damage from a chosen character. Maybe Timon had 1 damage, so I'm clearing it off of him. And I play Maximus. When I play this character, a chosen character gets -2 willpower to their turn, which I could give them Mickey Mouse. And if I had another character that was large enough to swing on Mickey Mouse, then Mickey's not doing nowhere near as much damage to my characters. Bounce is a term you hear in a lot of different card games, especially in Magic the Gathering, where there's a lot of these bounce effects. And in this particular game, in Lorcana, they actually happen to have a card called Bounce. And that's the whole mechanic right there, is putting cards back in your hand so you can replay them to gain the advantage of what's called their come into play ability. Whenever it says, when you play this character, that's a come into play ability. And for Maximus, chosen character gets -2 willpower till end of turn. Another card would be Mother Knows Best. It costs 1 more, but a character costs 3 or more, like Maximus, can sing it, can exert themselves to sing it for free, and you return a chosen character to their player's hand. Good if someone has, let's say, Arthur out on the field, you can bounce Arthur back to their hand using this card. Or, if you wanted to, you could bounce one of your own characters back in order to play them again. And in some games, I have actually used Mother's Knows Best to bounce Arthur back to my hand, actually after he's already quested, because I'm worried that my opponent might try to challenge him. So I'll bounce him back to my hand, and next turn I'll put him out again. Perhaps maybe not the best plan, but if I don't have any other Arthurs in my hand, it might be the way to go. And then this brings me into, it's not just these cards, but cards like Arthur. They have their own bounce effect, their own bounce mechanic. So whenever this character quests, you may return another chosen character of yours to your hand to gain 2 lore. So if I have Snow White and Maximus in play, I could, when I quest with Arthur, I bounce one of these characters back to my hand, and then I can immediately play it again, still on my turn, and then her come into play ability, I can use it to help heal Maximus. Or I could use Maximus to give someone else -2 willpower, so that way maybe I can make it easier to challenge them. So Arthur has this built-in bounce mechanic. Another card that has a nice built-in bounce mechanic is, we're going to go Madam Mim in her purple dragon form. When I play this character, banish her or return 2 chosen characters of yours to your hand. Now some other characters you could possibly have are, let's say, maybe I have Aladdin and I have Lady Tremaine. Lady Tremaine, 2 cost and inkable. When I play this character, each opponent with more than 1 lore loses 1 lore. With more lore than you loses 1 lore. Aladdin is a 3-cost inkable. When I play this character, each opponent loses lore. So if I had already played these characters, and my opponent now has more lore than me, let's say I get around to being able to cast Madam Mim. And when I play her, I have to banish her or return 2 chosen characters of mine to my hand. Oh, well, I'm easily going to choose these 2, no problem. And then, because if I can play Madam Mim, I can surely play these again. But the order is important when you're playing cards that have been bounced back to your hand. Because if I have an opponent who's got 1 more lore than me, I need to play Lady Tremaine first. Because if I play Aladdin, and then my opponent has the same amount of lore, I can't use Lady Tremaine. It's pointless. And then I might as well not cast her, because her whole purpose in my deck is to have that special ability. So, they go to my hand. If my opponent has at least 1 lore greater than me, I'll always play Lady Tremaine first, so they lose the lore. And then I'll play Aladdin to make them lose 1 more lore. And then I can quest with Arthur, Wizard's Apprentice, and when he quests, I can return a chosen character of mine to my hand in order to gain 2 lore. So I could choose Madam Mim to return to my hand. That way I keep the most amount of characters on my playfield for challenging. I keep them out there. But also, too, I want to keep these ready so when I play Madam Mim again next on my next turn, I can bounce these 2 back. And if my opponent still has more lore than me, I can play Lady Tremaine to knock them down 1. Or I can play Aladdin to make them lose 1 more lore. And you see how effective bounce is. And this is Amethyst and Ruby, and I think between these 3 colors, Amethyst, Ruby, and Emerald, you get some really, really good bounce mechanics out of these cards. Here we go. We have Jiminy Cricket, Pinocchio's Conscience. When you play this character, if you have a character named Pinocchio in play, you may draw a card. So I could turn around, and when Arthur quests, Jiminy Cricket could go back in my hand. As long as I had Pinocchio in play, which I don't have Pinocchio here in this particular moment, but as long as Pinocchio's in play and you cast Jiminy Cricket, then you get the draw card. It's great, and you can just keep these questing and bouncing combos, and they can get out of hand pretty quick. Now let me show you something that is really, really popular, and I don't want to make this video too long, but there are a lot of cards that have this bounce ability, bounce mechanic, and I'll quickly go over those in a little bit. So we have, and I don't think I have all of these here, but I got Madam Mim as the Fox. She's a 3-cost inkable, 4/3, quest for 1 lore. When I play this character, banish her or return another chosen character of yours to your hand. So I could easily bounce Madam Mim back to my hand, the Purple Dragon, so I could cast her again and then bounce 2 other characters to my hand. And what's nice, Madam Mim Fox has Rush, so they can challenge the turn they come into play. I also have Merlin, the goat. So when you play this character, and when he leaves play, gain a lore. So I play him, I gain a lore. I play Madam Mim, have to return a character to my hand. When Merlin leaves play, I gain a lore, and then I can cast him again, I gain a lore. And even if someone uses an action or a song to take him out, it doesn't matter. He leaves play, goes to my discard pile, I still gain a lore. It's a win-win with him. And then something else, and then I have also Madam Mim as the Snake. This is the best one. 2-cost, 3/3, quest for 1 lore. When you play this character, banish her, return another character of yours to your hand. Again, same thing with Merlin the Goat. I could be bouncing him all day with her. Or I could be, of course, bouncing Aladdin. I could be bouncing Lady Tremaine. There's a lot of cards that I could be bouncing with these combos. But Amethyst for bounce is where it's at. Emerald has a little bit of bounce, which can make it pretty good, because I think what Emerald and Ruby together, I think Amethyst by itself with bounce is super strong, and this is meta heavy right here. But Amethyst and Ruby with this bounce, my friend Jamie calls me the IRS because he feels like I'm taxing him with lore every time I play Aladdin and Lady Tremaine, and then use bounce to throw them both back in my hands just so I could play them again. He loves it. Well, not really, but you get the idea. Here's kind of an outer bounce character, Fairy Godmother. When you play a character named Cinderella, you may exert chosen character. So if I bounced Cinderella back to my hand, I could keep bouncing Cinderella back and forth to my hand in order to exert as many characters as possible. So that way, they're easier to challenge. Let's see. Blue Fairy is another example. It's not a direct bounce, but whenever you play a Floodborn character, you may draw a card. And that would be Minnie Mouse. So if you had Minnie Mouse in play, you could play Minnie Mouse, which is a Floodborn character, and then you could draw a card, and then you could use Madam Mim to throw her back to your hand, put her back out into play so you can draw another card again. That's called draw power. All right, see, here's another bounceable card. When you play this card, you may shuffle a card from any discard into its player's deck. Let's see. Here's another bounceable character, Anna. When you play this character, if you have a character named Elsa into play, limited use, but choose an opposing character. That chosen character doesn't ready at the start of the next turn. Maleficent. When you play this character, you may draw a card. Okay, cool, I drew a card. And then I'm going to play Madam Mim to throw Maleficent back to my hand, play Maleficent again to draw another card. Draw power. Of course, we already talked about Merlin the Goat. Here we go, Merlin as the Crab. When you play this character and when he leaves play, chosen character gets +3 Challenger this turn. So let's say I have Lady Tremaine in play. I know I got a lot going on. I got Lady Tremaine in play, right? I got Lady Tremaine in play. I'm going to clear my field here. So I've got Lady Tremaine in play. I play Merlin the Crab, so when I play, she gets Challenger 3. I use Madam Mim to bounce him back to my hand. And then let's say I also have Madam Mim the Fox in play. I could play Merlin again to also give Madam Mim the Fox Challenger 3 until end of turn. And then I could challenge with both of them. She's now a 7-3, and Lady Tremaine is a 5-2. Very, very nice. I also have Merlin. When you play as the squirrel, when you play this character and when he leaves play, look at the top card of your deck. You can either put it on the top or bottom of your deck, which is nice. It's not as effective as some other abilities, but it's nice because you kind of cherry pick what cards you want on the top of your deck, what cards you want to be playing with next turn. And I'm going to go ahead real quick, show you just a couple more cards that have some neat in-play abilities. So you could always play Fire the Cannons, and then it goes away to your discard. If you play Captain Hook, Captain of the Jolly Roger, when you play him, you can return an action card named Fire the Cannons back to your hand from your discard pile. And then I could play it again, and then I could play Madam Mim to bounce him back to my hand, put him back into play, get that card back, and play it again. Some other cards I have that are like that. Well, first of all, before I get that far, don't forget about stuff like Arthur. Whenever he quests, he gets to bounce characters back to your hand. So again, super nice. 3-cost uninkable, but Arthur is one of the go-to cards. Anybody who plays Amethyst at all, guaranteed they're going to have at least a couple of Arthurs to play around with because they're great, if not a playset. And the prices come down substantially. He used to be 20 bucks. I think he's half price now. But some other cards that are good for bouncing, you have like Simba and Cinderella, and you also have, let's see, okay, and the Huntsman, which I don't have here at the moment. But whenever you play these characters, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card. So if you're looking for just card draw, especially if you're hunting for certain cards, these aren't too bad cards. These aren't too bad of cards to use. What's nice is they're very inexpensive to get out fast. You do a lot of bouncing early game to dig through your deck and hunt for what you need. And the only downside is you might have to make a hard choice when you go to discard a card, or if you don't get anything better than what you've got. But what's nice, again, they're inexpensive. And the Huntsman is another one. He's a 2/2. I think he's a rare, but he quests for 2 lore, but he has the exact same ability as Cinderella. Beast, Forbidding Recluse. When you play this character, you may deal 1 damage to chosen character. Another good one to bounce back and forth. Magic Broom, Industrial Model. 3-cost inkable. When you play this character, chosen character gains resist +1, but only until the start of your next turn. But still, that's pretty nice. Benja, if you're looking for something that's good against items. Whenever you play this character, you can banish chosen item. Plus, he's a 2/3 and he quests for 2 lore. I like him. Beast, hard-headed. He's a 5-cost inkable. When you play this character, you can banish chosen item. Again, those two together, very good to be anti-item in your deck. Let's see, Jasmine, Heir of Agrabah. When you play this character, move up the 1 damage counter from chosen character of yours. Coconut Basket. Even though this itself you wouldn't bounce, but whenever you play a character, you remove up to 2 damage from chosen character. So I could play Cinderella. When I play Cinderella, 2 damage comes off, let's say Arthur. And then when Arthur quests, I can bounce her back to my hand. So I've got her for later if I want to play her again, so I can draw a card. And plus when she comes into play, combos off of this as well. So you're not just getting, so these 2 cards in play, oh well actually, these are 3 colors, so this is actually illegal technically. But if she was one of these other 2 colors, you kind of see how all 3 can kind of work in concert together. Now again, these 3 colors you currently can't have in your deck because you can only have 2, but you kind of get the idea because there are other cards that you can do that with, especially with Amethyst, with Arthur, with Merlin, as all the crab, the squirrel, Madame Mim is the fox, the snake, Merlin is the goat. I mean, you can get a lot of stuff. You get a lot of cool combos going, and very quickly too. Aurora from Sapphire, Briar Rose. When you play this character, a chosen character gets -2 willpower this turn. Nick Wild, when you play him, you can return an item named Popsicle from your discard to your hand. Rapunzel, when you play this character, each opponent loses 1 lore. Beast, Wolfsbane. When you play this character, exert all opposing damaged characters. Genie, on the job. When you play this character, you can return chosen character to the player's hand. This is a recent one I just got attracted to, which is Lucifer, Cunning Cat. He's a 5-cost, uninkable, but when you play this character, each opponent chooses and discards either 2 cards or 1 action card. That's really useful. He quests for 2 lore, which is strong. I know he's only a 2/2, but that's a pretty powerful ability. If you can bounce him, that's really good. Because if your players are just top decking and drawing cards, that's nowhere near as nice as having a full hand. And if you're taking out his hand, you're taking out his ability to do things. Maleficent. Oh, when you play this character, you may banish chosen character. Expensive, but if you're playing ramp, or your game just happens to be particularly long and you got a lot of ink, if you could bounce it not just once, but again a second time, oh, I think that'd be great. Let's see. Ariel, Spectacular Singer. When you play this character, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal a song card, and put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So you can literally search for, within the top 4 cards, you're searching for a song and snagging it. That's great. When you play this character, exert 2 chosen characters. They can't ready at the start of their next turn. So I can play her, exert 2 characters, and if I happen to have enough, I was playing blue, if I was playing Sapphire with Elsa, Spirit of Winter, then it's not improbable that I could have 8 to literally, maybe even 10 to find a way to bounce her, or like if I'm playing her with Arthur and I'm playing, let's see, Sapphire, and I got a lot of ramp in there, I got a lot of ink, I could use Quest Arthur to throw her back into my hand and play 8 and play her again and exert some more characters of my opponents. I mean, that's a lot. And I'm not sure exactly what context that'd be good. Probably if you're just swinging a challenge to eliminate some of your characters, but it's very, very nice. Merlin the Rabbit. When you play this character and he leaves play, you can draw a card. Merlin the Shapeshifter. This is really big with Amethyst players. When one of your other characters return to your hand from play, this character gets +1 lore this turn. So imagine, man, just imagine, I mean, let's say, so you play Merlin the Rabbit, and you draw a card. Arthur quests, and you have to bounce a character back, so I bounce him back, so I gain 2 lore. Whenever your character is returned to your play from your hand, this character gets +1 lore to quest with this turn. And then I could play Madame Mim, I could play Merlin again as the rabbit to draw that card. And then I could play Madame Mim the Snake to bounce him back to my hand, give him an additional lore, and then finally I could quest later with him again. I mean, it can be abusive, some of these bounce cards, this whole bounce mechanic. Robin Hood, when you play this character, if an opponent has more cards in their hand than you, you get to draw a card. Jasmine, Queen of Agrabah, when you play this character and whenever she quests, you may remove up to 2 damage from each of your characters. Scar, when you play this character, chosen opposing character gets -5 until this turn. You could play him twice. You could play him bounce him, play him again, and suddenly the 10-10 Goofy is a 0-10. Gaston! When you play this character, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put 1 into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Tamatoa. When you play this character and whenever he quests, you may return an item card from your discard to your hand. And Basil. If you used Shift to play this character, you may draw 2 cards when he enters play. Then you could bounce him back to your hand and then Shift him again to put him on top of another Basil character if you had him. So I know this is very quick, and this is just a few of the bounce options that you have, and there are a lot of cards out there that allow you to bounce. Again, Arthur, Madam Mim the Fox, Madam Mim the Snake. See, we got Mother Knows Best. We got actual bounce itself. I mean, there are so many cards, so many different options. I think if you haven't played bounce or you haven't focused on trying to use it, I think you should give it a shot, because the bounce mechanic is fun. It opens up a lot of doors and gets you used to doing some of those really competitive things. Get used to those competitive play styles that you might not be familiar with. And that's not a bad thing, because other people are going to be playing with these particular cards and are going to be thinking outside the box and using them to the fullest potential. And you should think about doing that too. I'm not saying you have to play the meta, because remember, you don't have to play the meta to have fun. You just have to have fun. Build your deck how you want to. But go ahead and take a look at some cards and look at things that you haven't been doing and give it a try. You might find you might suddenly like Amethyst, or maybe you decide you just don't want to play Amethyst, or maybe you'll use a little bit of the mechanic. Maybe, well, you don't want to be overly competitive in your group, so maybe you'll just use maybe Madam Mim the Dragon. If you occasionally get to bounce a couple things, so be it. But it's whatever you want to do. But anyways, I just want to take a little bit of time, and I know this video is kind of fast, and I tried to cover a lot in a short amount of time, but I really wanted to show you a lot of these different cards that you may not even be aware of. Again, the big thing is always really read the card when you're playing something like this bounce. Again, return chosen character of yours to your hand, and return chosen character of yours to your hand to return another chosen character to their player's hand. It's not just them, it's you. Cinderella. When you play this character, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card. May doesn't mean you have to. Does not mean you have to. But just think about some of that stuff. And even things like Captain the Hook and Fire the Cannons, you don't need to bounce Captain Hook all the time. If you have a playset of Fire the Cannons and a playset of Captain Hook, already that's a lot. Especially if you get some draw power in here, that could really be nice. But you could definitely pair this nicely with Amethyst and use Friends on the Other Side, which allows you to draw 3 cards. And then also too, that's where all the Madam Mim bounce is. So you could be able to bounce Captain Hook. You could have 8 chances. 4 with if you have all 4 snakes, and if you have all 4 Madam Mim foxes, you have 8 chances to bounce one of your Captain Hooks to get all these Fire the Cannons back. I mean, you could play these over and over and over and over again. Of course, if your opponent has Ward, then you're out of luck there. But that's why you might want to have some different options. If you're playing Amethyst, you're probably going to have Merlin the Goat in here, so you can just go for lore. There's a lot of different options, a lot of different things to think about in Lorcana. There's also the 3rd set coming up. It's going to have locations, I believe, so there's going to be a lot of things you kind of want to be watching out for, and new combos and new ideas. But anyways, I think I probably talked your ear off enough, and hopefully this video has been helpful for you. And I guess that's going to be it for now. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Dave Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild, telling you to stay safe, play great games, and I'll see you real soon.